Awesome. Appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. As usual, this is my favorite time, being able to walk through all of these awesome updates. Our team has been really hard at work. We've got a ton of things that we've already rolled out. Really excited to walk you through the most recent updates here. So before we get into it, though, again, I want to thank all of our customers. This journey has been incredible. Thank you all so much for continuing to refer your colleagues, your people in your local areas, your subcontractors, trade partners. Like, this has just been such an incredible journey, and we are so grateful to all of you. So thank you so much. It has helped us to continue growing our team so that we can add even more features, we can add even better support, and make sure that we're continuing to do everything that we possibly can to build the best company to support our ever-growing customer base. Got a couple new hires I'd love to welcome here. We've got Tim Curran. He joined us as a customer training specialist coming from the Big Blue. And we got Pablo, who has joined us as a customer success manager coming from the Big Green. So, for those of you who don't know, they do bring a plethora of experience and knowledge and have spent a lot of time working in the construction space and specifically with construction management software. So really, really excited to have these two guys join our team. Welcome aboard. Got JobTread Connect coming up. You've got a few more days until the next price increase. So grab your tickets. We have already sold out over half of the tickets that are going to be available. They're, going to go up by $100 on October 3rd. So be sure to grab those tickets. And even more important, I want to make sure that you grab your hotel reservations. We will sell out every hotel in the area. So make sure that you get your tickets, get your hotel reservations, book those flights. We are looking forward to having all of you join us in Dallas, Texas for JobTread Connect January 14th to the 16th. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. We have got a ton of updates here. I feel like we just did this product update webinar, I don't know, maybe like a month ago or so. I'm not sure how long ago it was, but we've already got a ton of updates to walk through here. So I'm going to dive into it right now. The first one, we've got some of the vendor management updates. This is now going to allow you to better keep track of your vendors, find vendors when looking to create documents, and ensure that they are in compliance. You can filter your vendors by a custom field when you're going to select them for a vendor order or a vendor bill. This allows you to pick a specific field and a specific output there or value, and then it narrows down that list. So really, really helpful. Now we've also given you some additional indications or warnings, alerts, if you will, about a compliance related issue. So if you have any custom field that has EXP, like for COI expires or your insurance expiration date or anything like that, those are going to be the fields that are going to trigger this alert. And so you're going to see this both in the drop down when you see the list of vendors. You see the green is indicating you're good, the red is indicating it's expired. And then you're also going to see it directly on those vendor documents. Now, I think this is super helpful, especially with our Hound Dog integration that will help you to automatically keep all of this up to date. Whenever they update those fields, they're automatically going to, show and take action and alert you here right when you're creating these documents. Really, really powerful, coupled with the Hound Dog COI automations there. So definitely check them out if you're dealing with, managing vendor compliance and COIs, liability insurance, things like that. Check that out and also look into this. I think it'll be super helpful for you. One other little bonus feature here related to vendors. So on the job reports, you now have one additional column called the to be billed column. This basically just matches the customer related report above that's showing kind of all the approved orders and the invoices, and then kind of the to be invoice column. This is that same thing. So it's showing you the difference of what has been approved, what's already been billed, and what's left to be billed. Should be really helpful for those of you who want to track the difference of what you've already paid and what's left. So check that out. It's on the job reports tab. All right, moving on. We talked about this, and we gave early access to the retainage feature, also known as holdbacks, at the last town hall. So over I guess that last month or so, we have rolled this out. This is now generally available to everyone, and this is allowing you to withhold a percentage of payments until the work is fully complete. And there's two types of retainages. We have it on the customer side and the vendor side. So your receivable retainage, it's the amount withheld from the customer invoice that you can bill to them later. And then you've got the billable retainage, which is the amount, withheld from the vendor bill to be paid out later. So you're able to adjust the retainage percentage on the job, but you're going to set this up as a default in your settings. You can also override the retainage settings on individual invoices or bills if you want. Most of the time we heard that kind of it's a standard, 10% or whatever it may be for all of your jobs, for all of the documents. But if you did need to customize that, you're able to. And you can also view the retained costs and price columns directly in the job budget and on the reports tab. So really helpful for all of you out there who are tracking retainage. Then this should be a go-to must-have feature that you've got enabled. There's a lot of training and materials to help you learn more about this if this is something that your business uses. Moving on, we have added the custom budget formula fields. So this is really, really powerful. It allows you, to add these calculated columns, these formula-based columns to your budget for a lot more like deeper insights. So some examples might be if you want to see the price or the cost, per square foot for all of your different cost items. If you wanted to calculate, commission in a very advanced way on a line by line, you could do that. Maybe you have different amounts of commission that you might pay based on the cost type, for labor versus material. If you wanted to come up with some own, percentage of cost complete or any other like calculations that you might want to do within your budget using all of these other fields like the cost item details, the job parameters, as well as any job custom fields on those cost items, then you've got access to all of that and you can create these formulas to again give you more insight from a reporting standpoint. Now these are really just for kind of reporting only, that they're not able to be used within like your quantity formulas or unit price formulas, things like that. Again, it's just to give you some additional reporting and insight if you want to kind of check where you're at versus what you should be at for your price per square foot or things like that. So really powerful, definitely a little bit more on the advanced side, but just wanted to make sure everyone is aware. And you can see how you can add these formula columns directly in the budget views. When you click on the gear icon and show the fields at the very bottom, you can click that add formula column, and that's where you're able to create these. And then obviously you can move them around your budget. So good stuff. Dig into that if you're interested. Should be really helpful. All right, this was another great ad. I really wanted this probably from the very beginning. Really excited for all of you that had asked about this and reminded us about how helpful this would be to be able to create, just text-based, announcement type tiles for your dashboards. So now you can use all of those same custom formatting, custom text editor there to create these dashboards. They could be announcements, reminders, any other key information that you want to put up there on your dashboards. You can do that. And again, you can do these call outs, these alerts. You can add tables, like all sorts of fun stuff that you're able to embed directly on to your dashboard. That'll be really, really helpful to keep your team up to date. Just any things that are happening, even if they're not coming into the office every day, they'll be able to see that right there on their home dashboard. All right, moving on. Got some more exciting stuff with the scheduling, to-dos. So again, we know how awesome these Kanban views are, and being able to drag things from one column to the next, being able to have this visual display of everything going on. And so these Kanban views now can be used with task and to-dos. And so essentially this is going to let you, kind of group these different tasks by, the progress status, by the task type, by the assignee, or if you're at the organization level, you can group it by job. And so again, like you can drag and drop these, it just gives you a really nice visual, gives you that count up at the top so that you can see where you're at, things like that. Just nice feature. This works both at the organization level as well as at the job level. Casey, if you can turn off your audio there. Thank you, sir. All right, moving on to the next one. So we had a lot of people asking for us to be able to export all of the parameter data. And so this could be from your plans as well as from your job parameters, any of these exports, wherever you do it, they will go directly into a CSV file that's going to have a bunch of, all of the details about those parameters, all the measurement data from your takeoff. So if you needed to send this detailed, data to, let's say, a supplier or to someone who's doing some sort of takeoff or putting together an order or whatever it may be, like, you now have the ability to export this directly into Excel there. That'll be really useful. Again, you just look for this little download icon both on the job parameters as well as on the plans. You can see that output there. All right, flying through it because I got something really excited to get to. But anyway, so we now have this new create jobs directly in QuickBooks as projects. So if you're using projects in QuickBooks, then you now have the ability to create those directly in QuickBooks. Now, before we didn't have the ability to create the projects, but this gives you the ability to now do that. Again, creating these projects in QBO when it pushes the invoice or the bill. It kind of works just the same, except before we couldn't create the project, it created the customer or the sub-customer. So if you turn this on within your QuickBooks, then it'll do this automatically for you. If you still want to do it manually, that's totally fine. You can just map up, the job in JobTread to the project in QuickBooks. But again, this is going to really streamline that whole process, and it lets you kind of take advantage of the QuickBooks project features. If you're not using projects, might not necessarily need to use it. But for those of you who are, you'll really appreciate this because it was a manual process before. So yeah, just small little add there that should hopefully make everyone's lives easier if you are using projects. All right, this is a cool feature because actually somebody brought it up on the last town hall. Andrew, one of our developers, said, "Oh, that seems pretty easy and really helpful," and he, I think, did it by the end of the day. So now you can create default file folders or tags for your company cam integration as well as your QuickBooks Online integration. So it's going to automatically organize those files when they get imported from one of these integrations, and it can automatically put them into a default folder, or it can tag them. So again, I know a lot of you get a lot of photos from company cam, and you want to kind of organize it into a company cam folder, for example, or you want to tag it with company cam, or maybe you want to automatically tag it with customer so that it shares with the customer, whatever it may be. This is a really powerful thing. Now, you need to know though, once you enable these features on those respective integration tiles, it's going to do it for all future files that get pulled in from QuickBooks or Company Cam. It's not going to go backwards and update all of the existing stuff. It is something that will get done moving forward. So if you want to use this feature, be sure to toggle it on, and everything moving forward will be done correctly. All right, another cool feature that we added here is in the help desk. We saw that a lot of people were asking kind of more detailed questions, but maybe weren't quite getting the answers that they were looking for, or our search wasn't quite doing it for you. And so we have now directly integrated with Google AI that is going to allow you to actually ask whatever question you want. Then you can click on the Ask Google AI, and that's going to open up in Google AI with that question. Kind of we've prompted it with the exact stuff that we know will get you the answers that you're looking for. And this is made possible because we recently opened up and published our entire help desk, all of our training, all of our industry guides, like everything that is on that help desk is now visible and indexed by Google AI. And so this is allowing us to then allow it to, try to give you much more specific, targeted answers personalized to you and what you're looking for. As always, I'm going to give you the caveat. It's AI, so definitely definitely don't trust and verify. We got to remember, AI is not always right. AI does hallucinate and totally makes things up. So that could happen here. Just take that, with a grain of salt. So you do want to always know that, you need to kind of check everything, but it should do a great job of getting you started, pointing you to the right resources, to the right, videos, to the right articles it is a really, really useful tool. So I highly recommend, if you're not finding the answer that you're looking for, just click on that Ask Google AI. We've been very impressed with what we have seen it produce so far. If you go through that and you still don't find the answer that you're looking for, please do email support. Let us know. We're constantly updating and adding, Anna and the training team, we're always putting out updates and trying to make sure that you've got all of the information, all the videos and help desk content that we can. So we think it's a really great feature ad. Definitely be sure to use it. All right, now we get to the exciting stuff. This has literally been a dream from the very beginning of starting JobTread, just like the dashboards that I've got all over our office. I wanted to also have this amazing automated workflows feature. This has been an incredible undertaking. I'm still blown away that our development team was able to pull this off in a relatively short time frame to be able to give you the ability to customize your JobTread and to automate the things that are happening within it. So again, you have the ability to build workflows directly in JobTread. You can set up trigger-based actions that run seamlessly across your projects, your customers, your documents. Anything in JobTread is able to be automated using these workflows. You can customize these workflows with filters and narrow down exactly what you want to happen. Maybe you don't want it to happen for all jobs or for all documents. Like that's where you can really come in and fine tune these workflows for your needs. And you can even apply logic and create paths. I'll show you that here in a second. Now, one thing to note, if you do something and you're testing it and you don't see it immediately run, that's because there's an intentional 15-second delay for every single workflow that would be running. So hang out, count to 15, and then you should see the action happen. If you don't see that action happen, then I suggest you go to your workflows tab and you will be able to see all of the recent runs, and you can even dig in. It'll show you if it didn't work. It'll tell you about the error that happened. You should also set up to get notified. If there are failures that are happening, you can put in one or multiple email addresses to get these alerts. But again, I think this is going to be so powerful for so many people. And I know that again, when we put this out, we were very mindful that this could be an overwhelming feature. Some people have expressed that, they feel like they can't keep up, or that this is just, they don't know how to use it, or they don't have the time to go learn it. That is totally fine. This is not intended to be a must use for every single customer. This is for those customers who really want to make these integrations and make their automations a lot more seamless and a lot more automated versus having to do things. If you wish your JobTread was simpler and every time you did something that something else happened, this gives you that ability. This also gives our support team the ability, if there's something that you really wish would happen every time, we can now give you that ability by just creating these workflows. It's very, very powerful. We can keep it simple or we can go really deep and get really advanced. It is so possible, and it's very flexible. And this allows you to really customize JobTread to your organization. So hang with me. I'm going to walk through some examples here, and we're going to learn a little bit more about these new workflows. So before we dig into it though, exactly, I want you to know we do have templates. We have given you a way to jumpstart some workflows and to see some examples of workflows that have already been built. And so when you go to the workflows feature in settings, there's a workflows tab. If you click on that plus workflow there, you will see import from library. This is going to let you bring that in. It's going to automatically map any custom fields. It'll say, hey, we see you don't have that custom field. So you can choose the right one and you can map it. But this will let you go explore some examples so that you don't have to start from scratch. It gives you that ability to sort of play around and learn from this starter library here. Now, one other cool thing to note, you can export any of your workflows as well. And this is going to save it as a file that you could then re-import, or maybe you wanted to share it with your friend. They could import it to their organization. It is super powerful to be able to have these and be able to share this stuff. So again, the goal here though is to customize this to meet your business and your logic and your paths and processes. We want to help you be able to get that set up. But I do recommend you always need to review every single detail before you activate these. Like there is potential to screw up your data. So be very mindful of what you're doing and make sure that you understand, this isn't somewhere where we need to kind of like do too much guessing and checking. Really think through. And if you don't understand, we have a ton of training. We've got live trainings on this. We've got the help desk articles. We've got videos. We even in the help desk library, if you go look up workflow templates, Anna has recorded a walkthrough explaining each and every one of these templates here. So that's going to help you to, again, learn how this stuff works. If you're unsure though, please do reach out to support. We want to help you here. Your customer success managers can help you as well, or just the JobTread community. The Facebook JobTread Pros group is another great place to throw out ideas and get some help. So let's dig into the different components of a workflow. So it really kind of boils down to these main basics. We've got triggers. The trigger is the starting event for a workflow. This is what kicks it off. And this might be something was created in JobTread, something was updated, or maybe it's something was created or updated. So those are kind of the main things. Like think about what happened, and that is going to start a workflow. This is how we kick off a sequence of actions that will happen after that. So that brings me to action. So this is like what that workflow is going to do. And you can have one or many actions that will fire after a workflow has started. This is, again, it's telling us what to do with this data and what we want to happen. And then the last one, and this is a really important one, the filters. This is going to check if that data that is coming through that workflow, like, does that meet the criteria to continue running that workflow? A lot of times you don't necessarily need the workflow to run. Again, this might have been just one, maybe every time a customer's created, that's always going to initiate the workflow for your customer created workflow. But like maybe you only want to do something if, the status is new, or maybe you only want to do it if, some particular field or some value for that subset of records. This lets you kind of really be very intentional about when you want these things to run. So those are the basics. Is everyone still with me? Let me see if we got, how are we doing here? Everyone in the chat, let me see. We ready to see some examples? All right. Just making sure everyone's with me. I know I'm going fast. I got limited time here. So, all right, let's get into it. So we're going to take this. We've got a new job workflow example here. So when a new lead is added, we're going to create a job. So the trigger is when a new lead is added. The action is to create the job. So let's see what that looks like. Our trigger is customer created. Our action is create job. And so when you go and you add these, essentially these drop downs here are going to have all the possible triggers that you can do or the actions. Like when you go to add something to a workflow, you got to say, what is this going to do? What is the main, function of this step? And each of these steps is going to have a number. So again, number 1 is the trigger. Number 2 is the action here. All right, now let's say when a new job is created, we want to send a message. So our trigger is when the job is created. Our action is to send a message. All right, the trigger, job created. Cool. Our action, create a comment and send that to the customer. So again, we can come in here, create comment. We can decide who we want to run that as. If you don't select run as user, then it's just going to say that JobTread did it. You can select a specific user though. And then this is going to go and create that message for that, for that customer or that job, kind of whatever you assigned it to. We're not seeing all the options here, but again, you're going to have to kind of go through and hear all the different things that you need to tell that action to help make sure that it does the right thing and it's associated to the right record, yada, yada. All right, let's do another one. New job is created. We want to import a schedule. All right, triggers, the new job is created. The action is to import a schedule. So when we look at that, again, we got our job created trigger. Now this is a new one. We're going to find the task template. And so the action is to first find the task template. And I'm saying here where the task template name is asterisk residential construction. That was the name of our schedule template. Once we have found that, now we're going to import the task template. So that is the action, import task template. So again, this is where that target ID, that's where we importing it. That's to the job. And we got the job, the ID of that job in step one. We're just telling, hey, that's a job. And then the task template ID, that is what we got from step two. We need the ID. And so again, you have to go through and we have to use IDs. We have to be very, very specific about what records and what is going to happen. And this is how we're going to do it. And so you'll notice though, a lot of times on these actions, if you were to go do this in the user interface of JobTread, then you would see that it's prompting you with that same information. Like, what is the start date? Is there a start time? Like you essentially are populating that same details right here on these actions. You're just not necessarily doing it by clicking through the UI. We're going to set that for every time that this runs. All right, let's look at let's pull it all together here. So we got a new lead is added. We want to create a job, send a message, and add a schedule. We can do this all in one swoop. Our trigger is the new lead. Action 1 is to create the job. Action 2 is to send the message. Action 3 is to add the schedule. So here's what that workflow might look like. We've got our trigger, customer created. We've got now the create job action. That's step 2. We're going to create the job. Now, one thing that is important to know is that you do need to have the ID for the location. So in our customer created location, if we didn't have the location there, then we would need to create that as well. But we'll go ahead, we're creating that job, and we can populate any of those custom fields on the job right there. Now, our next action that we wanted was to send a message. So again, we're going to create that comment. It's gonna come from Dan. We got all the different details of that. Action 3 is going to, or action 3 and 4 is going to find the template, and then we're going to import and add that schedule to that job that we just created. So again, all of this is flowing through this one trigger, customer created. So as you can see, when you have things that need to happen over and over and over again, you can now automate that by having these workflows do it for you. All right, let's look at another example. This one we're going to dive into the documents and see what we can do here. So when a proposal document is signed, we're going to update the job status and assign the project manager field. So again, our trigger is document updated. We want to filter for a specific document, which is our proposal. That's what our filter is going to do here. And then we're going to update the job status and assign the PM. We're actually doing that all in one action here with this update job status and PM. So it's all done in one. But again, this is letting you filter and say that I only want the document. Sorry, I don't have the details here of the filter, but what that would say is, if the document name equals proposal, and we would also probably have one that says if the status, the new status goes to, it goes to approved, because we don't want this to happen until that document gets approved. So we have to filter and say, don't fire for all document updates, only when the status changes to approved. And that's what those filters let us do there. And then we can take our action. All right. So there's one other trigger type that I want to talk about here. And this is going to be the reminder trigger type. And so if you wanted to, start a workflow when it reaches a specific date or time, you can run these reminder workflows based on a field or based on a record. And so to complete additional time-based fields, you can choose that specific date and time to run it. So in this example, right, we have a document reminder. So we're going to say when the due date is one day before at 9:30 a.m., we want to run this workflow. If you wanted to run it on the due date, you would say, 0 days before. And if you wanted a time, you can set the time. If you don't want a time, cool, you don't have to have a time. But you can do this, and you can create these reminder workflows on customers, documents, jobs, tasks, time entries, vendors, so as long as there is a, date or a date time field, then you can schedule these to run in the future. So really, really powerful stuff. Let's look at an example here. So let's say, our vendor workflow example, if we want to message our vendors 30 days before their COI expires, we can now do that. Our trigger is 30 days before this date field, and our action is to message them. So again, we're going to create a vendor reminder trigger, and then we have our custom field COI expires, and that's going to say 30 days before that date, we want to run this. We want to send a message. So that's the second part. The action is to create that comment. Again, there's really, really endless possibilities of what you might want to do here. Let's look at another example. Maybe, once a document, reaches the expiration date, we might want to void or decline that document, and let's just send them a message. So again, our trigger is when a document reaches the expiration date, then we want to decline the document and send a message. All right, so the trigger document reminder, 0 days after the due date at 9 a.m. That is a very specific time. That is when this workflow will run. And so at that point, we're going to check the document status. So we want to make sure that the status is pending. If the status is pending, then it's going to move forward. If the status is not pending at that time, then it will not move forward. It will just end. So let's assume we're moving forward. Now we're going to update the document status. So that is an action, update document, and we're going to set, which documents. We have to be very specific. So it's the ID from the trigger, what initiated this workflow. We're going to put the ID right there in the ID field, and then we're going to set the status equal to denied. And then lastly, we're going to create a comment that's going to be assigned to that document, and will get sent off, to whoever was related to it. So as you can see, this is a way to automate, taking action based on time. As these reminders, instead of you having to do it, you can now just let the system do it for you. This is a great way if you wanted to schedule automated follow-ups. Maybe you sent out a proposal. You want, in 3 days, you want to see, did they approve it? If not, let's send them a reminder. You could build this whole kind of series of messages, based on, when you want these to run and what you want it to do. Really, really powerful stuff. All right, so I want to talk about pass. So the goal here is that for each type of trigger, you really only need one workflow. So you want to leverage these different paths so that you're not creating a bunch of workflows that are all actually going to fire for the same exact thing. You want to combine those. And so the goal here is to kind of leverage these paths to build out multiple steps within a single workflow. So again, this example here is just showing you for job created, you may want many things to happen. And each of these can be different paths, and all of them can run, or maybe only one of them runs. Depending on how you set your filters, it'll go through each path and it will check and see if that path should run. And so I highly recommend when you're building out these different paths. So, as you've seen in some of my previous examples, you can actually rename these. And I would be very descriptive about what is this, filter, what are we looking for, what is the actions, things like that. Because as you start to build these out, you're going to want to make them easy to read and know what you've done without having to open up everything and inspect it. But again, this is very important to understand because we do have a limit for the number of workflows that you can have in your organization right now. And that limit currently is set at 10. And the point is here, though, that you should not need, and we don't want you to create a bunch of workflows for the same trigger. That is extremely inefficient. And for us to really help kind of scale this out, we need to help you be more efficient and help us, to efficiently run these. We don't need to queue up the same thing over and over and over again when it can be combined. So I hope that makes sense. As you get into it, please do let us know. Like if you have created 10 different, different triggers, different workflows, let us know. we're happy to kind of look at your use cases and look at what we might be able to do there. But like, again, this is a very important concept. You can run many different paths on the same workflow for the same type of trigger. And I would also say, again, you might have job created, and then maybe you want to do the same thing when it's updated. You have that same trigger that's job created or updated. So you don't have to duplicate your workflow to do that same thing. If you want it to run, regardless if it was the first time it was created or any time it's updated, combine those into one. The trigger would be job created or updated. All right, so let's look at an example here. So we're gonna keep going with our document workflow example. So when a new job is created, we want to add the project manager based on the job type. Trigger when job is created. The action is to set the project manager custom field, and the filter is going to be that we're going to use to determine the path is going to be checking the job type. So let's look at what this looks like. We've got our job created filter based on the job type field. As you can see here, the first one is going to filter for when the job type equals remodel. Then we want to set the project manager field on the job equal to Marley. Now, let's look at the next one. If the job type equals new construction, then we want to assign that job to Travis. Lastly, if this is a warranty job, then we would want to assign that to Bobby. So again, this shows you that you can set up a whole series of these different paths that these workflows can follow, and it will just keep going through each and every one of them to determine if the filter is met, then it will move forward. Otherwise, it goes down to the next one. Now, I do want to point out, in this specific example, since we have the update job, that means that we are setting a custom field, likely called project manager or PM, equal to Marley or equal to Travis. Now, the other thing that you could do, like if you wanted to actually give access to that job, like let's say you wanted to, automate assigning Marley to a job, then there would be a couple different actions that we would do. The first one would be to find Marley's membership ID. That is her JobTread ID for your organization. And once you find that, then you can use the assign action that will allow you to assign Marley to that job. A little bit more advanced, but again, I just want everyone to know, if you wanted to automate the assignment and giving access to certain records, you can do that as well. Really powerful stuff here. All right, another example. So when each type of document is approved, we want to send a customer the message, and maybe that's a specific message. So our trigger is document approved, our filter is for each type, and the action is going to send the message. So again, trigger, document updated, filter is going to be based on that document status. So if it is approved and it's equal to a proposal, we can have two filters in that one right there. So, status equals approved, document name equals proposal, then we could send a specific, curated message for those people. Maybe though this was an invoice and we want to make sure that that invoice was also paid, then we might send a, thank you message to the customer. Now, maybe if this is a filter for a closeout agreement, once something's happened, whatever status it is, you can then send that specific message. So as you can see, you can really start building out very robust workflows here that take the context into account to allow you to really customize what those actions are based on the type of record that is triggering this workflow. All right, got one more example here. So we heard from a lot of people. You want to automatically remind your team to clock out, after 8 hours or at a certain time, or whatever it is. The key here is that if they are still clocked in. So the trigger is, actually the trigger here is going to be the time entry is created, and then we're going to have it do a delay. So we want to delay for 8 hours. So regardless what time they clock in, we're going to automatically set a workflow to run 8 hours later. And when that runs, it's going to go find the time entry. So it's going to look up that time entry because we have the ID from the trigger, and we're going to say, get that time entry. Now we want to check the status of that time entry. If the time entry has not, if the end of that has not been set, so if it does not exist, that means there is no clock out on that time entry, that's our filter, then we want to move forward, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to find that membership, from the original, whoever it's clocked in, it was related to. We're going to find that user's ID, and then we're going to send them a message. And that's going to tell them, hey, you've been clocked in for 8 hours already, please remember to clock out. So that's an example of, how you could set, these reminders up, but again, if you wanted to remind everybody who's still clocked in at 5 p.m., then you could have that be the delay until 5 p.m. So there's lots of different ways that you can configure this to meet your needs and your desired outcomes here. So a couple additional tools that I want to walk you through here. These are kind of those other special actions, if you will. We've created them under this tools menu. So the delay, we've talked about the delay, but this is to delay the following steps in a workflow for a specific duration or wait until a date time. Okay, so another one we've got, the transform tool. This is going to allow you to transform data based on a formula. So, let's say you've got some field that comes in, maybe you want to, maybe you've got a name and you want to split it into first and last, or, maybe you've got a date and you want to add 5 days to that, or maybe you've got, just some sort of, advanced formula that wants to go kind of determine, something or other. Like you can use a formula in this transform action to allow you to really customize what you want to happen. We also have a loop. So this is going to loop over a list or an array of items and then execute the action for every single thing in that list. Again, I would say this is probably also in the advanced category. I see we've got some advanced things below, but really, really powerful stuff. Just be aware if there's a list of things that you want, then you can take action on everything in that list. We also have the query action. So this allows you to run a custom API query. Again, definitely in the advanced realm here, but we did add this feature to Zapier. It was really, really helpful. So if there's something in particular, if you can't get, a filter to do exactly what you want or an action to do exactly what you want, there is a very high likelihood that you can actually do it with this query. Again, pretty advanced, probably need to be a developer. Just want to let all the developers out there know that these are available to them. And then lastly, we have our webhook. So using a custom webhook to connect with external systems. I'm going to talk about that here in just a second, but very, very powerful. Just so you know, that's what a webhook is that is allowing you to receive data and to post data to external systems. So let's talk a little bit more about those webhooks. So there's two types of webhooks. There's webhook triggers and webhook actions. So you can receive a trigger from an external system. So let's say some other system that supports webhooks. That means whenever something happens in their system, they can actually post to JobTread, and we will receive that trigger and we will take action with the data that they have sent to us. So that's the receiving. And then we have the ability to post out, to send out, to share data to that, an external system. So that means you can basically, have a bunch of things happen, and then we can send out that data to some URL. This very likely will require those external systems, those other apps, whatever they are. You're going to need, their developers to have added support for webhooks and essentially be able to post data to us and receive data from us. But again, tons of modern web applications out there. They already have support for this, but definitely is on the more advanced side. Just we see this being how we will be able to unlock just tons and tons of integrations with JobTread without even having to use our API, which is super powerful. This is going to make just hundreds and thousands of integrations so much more, easily done by the developers and by those other companies. So I want to talk about one special integration that we have been working on, and we have been putting into JobTread directly, in the workflows here. So that is with HighLevel. So I got to preface this with there's two names. You got HighLevel, and then you have the lead connector. If you are, using HighLevel and you log in and it says that you're logging into HighLevel, then you're going to use the HighLevel integration to authenticate, log in, and connect your account. If you are using a white labeled version of HighLevel, which if you have a marketing partner, a marketing agency, somebody who is, essentially customized and set up HighLevel for you, then you are going to use the lead connector. I highly recommend you go through our marketplace and you work with our marketing agencies and our other partners who are already set up. They're well trained. They really understand the ins and the outs of HighLevel. They can make this onboarding process so much faster, but that's kind of the difference between the two. So again, with these triggers, these are, once you have authenticated your account, and again, this will either say HighLevel or lead connector, you will have a whole bunch of triggers that we have added support for. So again, this might be a contact was created over there. A contact tag was updated. A contact was updated. A note was created. A note was updated. An opportunity was created. An opportunity stage was updated. Opportunity status updated. Opportunity updated. Task completed. Task created. The list goes on and on. If there is a specific trigger that you think that is not in there or that would be helpful to you, please let us know. This is an extremely long list of possible things. We tried to go and focus in on what we think are going to be the most useful triggers for you. But if there's something not in there, please do let us know. Now, on the flip side, we have the post data. We have the action where we can post out to HighLevel. And so we've added a couple, but at this point, we want you to let us know. We need our customers to tell us what specifically, when we send data back to HighLevel, what are you wanting to happen? What actions do you want us to add? Because they're easy for us to add, but again, there's infinite possibilities here. And so we right now we have this HighLevel lead connector integration set up. It is in a kind of in an early release format, so we can give certain people, if you are interested in helping test it and really giving us that feedback of what you think would be the most useful for you, then please reach out to support and just say, hey, can I get early access to the HighLevel or the lead connector integration? And we will give you instructions on what to do. In exchange for you, please give us feedback so that we can make sure that when we roll this out, which won't be long after this, but we want to make sure that we're getting the most important triggers and actions in there. We want to hear from you. So please do let us know. Reach out if you're interested. We're really excited about this. This is going to be extremely powerful for all of you. And this also sets the model for all of these other integrations that we're going to be able to enable leveraging our workflows. So here's just one example, kind of, wet your whistle here. So, again, in HighLevel, let's say the opportunity stage was updated. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to receive the webhook and the trigger, and then we're going to go through and we're going to check. We only want to move forward if the stage is qualified. So the pipeline, if that's equal to, let's just say, our marketing pipeline, and the pipeline stage is qualified, then we want to move forward. If the opportunity stage was updated to anything else, then we don't want to move forward. All right, let's say it's qualified. So now we're going to go and we're going to look up the contact from HighLevel. So we're going to, again, use the ID that came to us in step one. We're going to get the contact, and now we're going to create the customer. We're going to create the location all right there in step 4. And then step 5, we're going to create the job. So as soon as your opportunity has been qualified in HighLevel, you want to automatically create the customer location and job in JobTread. This is the workflow that would do that. Really powerful stuff. Again, as you can see, there's just endless possibilities for how this will be able to automate the communication between any external applications in JobTread. Maybe after this point, you might have wanted to post something back to HighLevel. You would absolutely be able to do that. Very, very powerful. We think that the sky is endless here, what these possibilities are, and we want to hear from you how you would want to be able to do these. All right, couple tips here before I leave you. I think that these are very important. So I encourage you to start with the templates. If you're brand new to this, don't start from scratch. It's going to be a lot harder to figure out. Pull in a couple templates and build upon those, modify those, kind of play around and learn how these workflows work. Before though you start, you need to check your custom fields. Anytime you pull in a template that has a custom field, you need to make sure that whatever values that workflow that custom field is using, you need to make sure that you support those in your custom fields. Otherwise, the criteria might not work, the action might not work, you'll get an error. You got to make sure that your custom fields are set up to match to the custom fields of whichever workflow you're importing. I mentioned this earlier, but naming your workflows, naming the steps within your workflows. Well, both. You got to name your workflows, but like every time you add an action, you see this little pencil icon next to the action name. Rename it. Be specific about what that action is going to do. That's just going to make your workflows a lot more, understandable, readable. If anyone else is hopping in there, if you reach out to support and they're trying to figure out what you're doing, name those steps. That's just going to make it easier for everyone. And then maximize, the use of paths. Like that is how you really, build very elaborate, well thought out, kind of very detailed workflows. Again, kind of get them all centralized around the specific trigger and what you want to happen, but just kind of keep adding on to those. You can also clone not only actions, but you can clone entire paths within a workflow. So if you build out the first path and you get everything and you just want to kind of do one little thing different, there's a clone button. From the very beginning of that action and everything after that, when you clone it, it'll take the whole path. Really, really helpful. Just so you know too, you can drag and drop these different steps all over the workflows. A lot of really neat features that'll help you. And lastly, I gotta encourage you, test your workflows. Anything that you have specifically set up, make sure that you're running a test. Create a test customer, test job, test this stuff. Don't just assume that it's going to work. Run test, look back in the workflow, look at the execution. You will see success or you will see a failure and it'll tell you why it failed. Like, it is very important that you do this and you test your workflows. Don't just assume that it's going to work. You need to confirm it before you just set it and forget it. All right, so there are a lot of resources here to help you start building workflows. We have tons of things that we have done here. Again, you can attend a workflows and automation live training. I believe we've got like one per day coming up here in the future. There's a lot of examples and videos in the help desk that we've added. Explore that template library. We've also got think tanks. So those are just, again, open for anyone to join. Whatever conversations happen, share ideas. You guys can share screens, talk about, ask how to do something. Our team will be there. Anyone else on the call, again, we want these to be very collaborative, work together to come up with, these options for you. You can also, again, share your workflows, share your ideas, collaborate in the JobTread Pros Facebook group. And lastly, we have JobTread Connect, our automation lab. I'm super excited about this. So at JobTread Connect, we are going to have, a full-blown automation lab where you're going to be able to explore all the JobTread integrations. The companies that have integrations on JobTread will be there set up to show you how and what their product, their service does. We'll help you, get if you want to zap your account, you can get that started. If you want to, if you're a developer, you want to learn about our API, there's all sorts of learning that's going to happen in this automation lab. So again, attendees can get peer-to-peer advice on automating repetitive tasks. You can collaborate with other attendees. You can collaborate with our partners. You can collaborate with our staff, our support team. we are excited to help you explore this new workflows feature, and we want to help you get JobTread fully automated so that you can really maximize the potential here to streamline your business, streamline your processes. If there's something where you're doing a bunch of clicks and a bunch of things over and over and over again, that is likely a great candidate for a workflow automation. So be thinking in your day-to-day as you're using JobTread, if there's something that you're like, hey, can I do that? Like, again, post out to the JobTread Pros group, reach out to support, reach out to your customer success manager. Like, we want to help you really maximize the power here of these automations. We think it's going to be huge. And don't forget, ticket prices are going up. We're over halfway sold out for JobTread Connect. We want you to be able to attend, so please do grab your tickets before October 3rd. As usual, I want to remind everybody, I know a lot of people tell me all the time their favorite time when they log into JobTread, they're always looking for that little red number there on the bell, meaning there is a new feature, in our help desk, in the What's New section. We always publish all the updates, put out a video walkthrough. Please do try to keep up with everything that's happening there. Again, you don't have to put everything to action though. You don't have to implement every single feature as we add them. Just see the things that may be, most interesting, most useful. Again, focus on those highest priority, updates that are going to add the most value for you. Think it's going to be really helpful. Again, we got tons of live trainings that we have added that are available for our workflows and automations. Just go to the help desk, go to the training section. You'll be able to learn all of those and get registered for those training sessions. And lastly, we've got our upcoming boot camps. These are the last two beginner boot camps for the year, October 16th and 17th, as well as November 13th and 14th. It is a 2-day in-person event at our office, hands-on. Let's see in the chat if any of you all have attended our boot camp. Let us know if it was helpful, and if I don't know what your favorite thing that you learned is, or if you were surprised by anything, what was it? Share your experience there. If you are new to JobTread, please consider coming. If you have new employees that have joined your team that you need to get trained on JobTread, please consider sending them to the JobTread boot camp. We think it's a great way for them to get up to speed very, very quickly. We would be happy, to do anything in our power to help them learn JobTread as fast as possible. You also get that hands-on time with our team, with our support team. You get to meet our whole team. We have a really cool event at our office, happy hour. Take care of, again, your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Really great time. So consider coming to these boot camps. They do sell out, so you'll want to grab your tickets sooner rather than later as well. And couple upcoming webinars. Just want to highlight. We've got Nicholas Donlan from Zenith Design Build talking about achieving a 10x improvement in slippage. That is a Pro Spotlight webinar coming up October 4th at 1 p.m. And then on October 15th at 3 p.m. we have Paul Anthony from Highspire Capital. He is going to be talking about how contractors increase net profits, the secrets from high-performing companies. You definitely want to check these webinars out, as well as all of our upcoming events. They are a great learning source. If you can't make them live, we do publish all the recordings as well. So be sure to tune into those. Also a reminder, JobTread certification programs. If you or your team has not yet gone through our certifications, these are a great way to just watch a couple videos, answer some questions, get certified. We now have a field employee certification available, so be sure to check all of these out. They're really, really helpful for those of you who like to learn on your own. And if you're not part of the JobTread Pros Facebook group, as always, I want to encourage you to join. It is a great place for all of us to network, to work together. I can't stress enough how important it is for all of us, to be able to help each other. A rising tide lifts all boats. Networking with others who are going through the same challenges, the same things, whether it's with JobTread, whether it's your business, whether you're dealing with an employee, whatever it may be. Like, we want this community to be supportive of each other, and this is a great community. I thank you all for all of the time that everyone has invested in helping each other. This is how we help all of us do better and build better businesses. Please get involved with the community. And also tune in to Builder Stories every Wednesday. We've got a new episode coming out It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. You can just listen to them on builderstories.com. If you've got a story that you'd like to share, I'd love to have you apply and come on the show as well. Got a really awesome one coming out tomorrow, so you're gonna have to tune into that. Michael James talking about how he's built his team and the culture and the leadership there. Really great. Tune into these. Again, you can save yourself so much time and energy by learning from other people's challenges, how they overcame them, the things that are working. Great resource. We put a lot of energy into this, and they're just awesome, awesome stories. So thank you all. Thank you for all the shout outs, the reviews. I've seen them coming in, rapid fire over the last several weeks and months. We really appreciate them. Again, this is what allows us to keep our costs, down. Our customers are sharing all of the great successes that you've had with our team, with our software. I just thank you, thank you, thank you. This means the world to us, and this helps us continue to spread the word so that other people can keep joining our community, so we can keep pouring right back into our team and into the product and helping deliver the most value that we possibly can. Again, if you haven't given us a review, please do. We'd really love to get some going on Capterra, G2, Software Advice. Those are some newer sites that we're trying to kind of build up our presence there. If you've enjoyed working with JobTread, our team, our app, whatever it may be, please do go give us a review. It means the world to us. It's very, very helpful. Thank you. And with that, I have made it through. I see I was a little bit over time, but I am happy to hang around as usual, answer questions, dive in to whatever's piquing your interest. I'm just so grateful that our team has been able to deliver so many awesome updates. I'm very grateful that you all take the time to attend these webinars, to keep implementing, to keep learning. Again, we want to be a resource. We genuinely care about your success, and however we can help you, we're here and we'd love to hear it.
All right, Eric, way to go. Wow. All right, we will be sure to ask any of your questions that you may have in the Q&A. We actually only have a few right now, so I think you did an excellent job at answering everything throughout the presentation.
Well, thank you.
Um, so one thing I did want to mention while we're talking about things coming up here, this is kind of the start of our big conference season too. So we have some big conferences that we are going to. You can now find those on our website under resources and upcoming events. We have them filtered by conferences. So we would love to see you all there, our customers, at any of those shows that we have coming up. And let's see, our first question. So, can you speak to when the selections updates will be rolling out?
Yeah, so Philip, I mean, we've made a bunch of small updates to selections. You may or may not have noticed them, but we've really improved a lot of kind of how things are getting created. There were some places that were a little bit clunkier than we would have liked. Over the last few months, we've ironed out a lot of that. If there's some kind of bigger thing that you're looking for, we'd love to hear it. I will say selections has been a very challenging feature because like literally everybody seems to want to use it differently. And so, at this point, we're back to trying to figure out, is there, some update that we can make that would, improve this feature for everyone while not, taking away functionality because, for better or for worse, there are so many different ways that selections have been used that, really for us to, try to do too much more simplification, we would have to take away some functionality, and we've never had to do that before. We've never done that, so we're very mindful. And if there are specifics, I think it would be helpful for you to record a video kind of walking through any ideas you have, any challenges you have. Please do keep sending those in to your customer success manager to support. We're continuing to look at that. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at with it.
All right. And then do we have any text messaging options?
So one of the upcoming integrations that will be enabled with the workflow, we are planning to add a Twilio integration. But I would say even better than that, one of our partners, DataX, has actually already integrated with OpenPhone and I believe one other. Actually, I think OpenPhone changed their name recently, but they I think it was Dialpad that they also integrate with. So those integrations are already available. If you're not familiar, haven't checked them out, go to our marketplace and just look up DataX. Winyourdata.com is the website, but they've got just tons of automations already built out that may actually provide what you're looking for. Otherwise, we do plan to add some text messaging capabilities into this workflows feature, which will essentially be through Twilio.
Great. And we had Stephen asking about what data points will be able to flow from HighLevel to JobTread. And I know Tom Houghton, it looks like, chimed in there, and I know he knows a lot about that. He's one of our partners.
Yeah, so it's really the sky's the limit here, right? Like we need to know specifically what information. So I showed that screenshot earlier. I mean, we've sort of set it up right now to focus on the contacts, the opportunities. And so if there's something within that, you can certainly get any of that data and pull it in. If there's something outside of that, we need to know. But again, if you're working with someone like Tom Houghton and Loop or one of our other partners who have set up their own kind of implementation of HighLevel, you'll want to collaborate with them to sort of figure out what might be the best solution here. Again, we're making these available to anyone and everyone though. So if you're working through a partner, then you'll probably want to let them help you set those workflows up. But a lot of it just kind of comes down to sort of mapping the data and what information at what time do you want to flow into JobTread or back out of JobTread to the other system. It's very, as you can see, it's very customizable. The sky's the limit. So it's likely possible. We just need to sort of know the specific of what you're looking for.
All right. And then we have a question about assemblies. We need assemblies, multiple cost items that roll up into one.
Assemblies, multiple cost items that roll up into one. I mean, so most people, what they're doing to create those assemblies, they're creating the cost group templates in the catalog, and being able to build out formulas, based on based on the group. So, again, Richard, I think working with your customer success manager to try to flush out how that may be possible today would probably be your best bet, as well as or call into to support. But again, there's a lot of possibilities when you can bring into account parameters. You've got some things where you're able to access kind of the cost group certain fields, and then you've also got everything on the cost items. So it really is a very kind of specific thing that we need to kind of work with you to try to recreate those assemblies as best we can.
Okay. And we just noticed we wanted to mention our JobTread Awards. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about what our JobTread Awards are. We have the submission deadline coming up October 10th.
Yeah, so I think let me see if I can open up. Let's see. So that's on jobtread.com/connect here.
Yep.
So we have our awards page. So definitely, if you hadn't submitted this, or if you hadn't nominated, if you know people who would be, certainly represent well, then please do before October 10th. Submit these. It's basically you can either nominate them or you can submit your own. But there are lots of different categories. Yeah, lot of different information here.
Yep. Wonderful. And cash prizes when you win. So
Yeah.
wonderful. Okay, so are there any plans to integrate with Google Workspace?
Google Workspace. I would need to know specifically what you were looking for there. But no, I don't. I don't necessarily know. Google Workspace is enormous.
So Scott, if you want to write in there and elaborate a little bit. Let's see.
I see Stephen asking for so Twilio integration. So I don't have a don't have an immediate timeline on that, but hopefully, again, like the workflows feature that we've set up is extremely powerful and extremely extensible. So, we think that this hopefully we'll be able to incorporate a lot of integrations in a lot shorter time than what we would have had to do beforehand to build these integrations. Um,
Yeah,
but
he says,
that's definitely a top priority.
oh, someone else chimed in and said Google Drive. I guess.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if we would be building a native Google Drive integration. Again, you could set this up with a workflow potentially. Or I mean, I know Zapier has a deep integration with Google Drive, but it kind of depends again. Like, are you wanting to sync a bunch of files in or push a bunch of files out? Um, yeah, that can be done. I've seen people do it. Same thing with Dropbox and whatever the Microsoft one is.
Hmm. All right. Any chance of getting a dark mode of JobTread?
Kevin, great question. I would suggest using a browser extension. There's a ton of those out there. I saw recently the discussion in JobTread Pros about that. Like, the reality is, like, literally every single page and everywhere that we have designs and CSS, like, to enable that is actually a very large project for us to try to do that natively when, again, there's a good chance that there's going to be a working Google Chrome extension that's already built that would work for you. I've seen a lot of people that have created some or have installed those that work really well.
Oh, good to know. Okay. Kevin's asking about more. He wants to see more forms, submittals, RFIs.
Yeah, we've kicked around the idea of a very simple forms feature. The challenge is that, again, it's a slippery slope, and it's a never-ending list. We've my last company, we had a forms builder, but at the end of the day, it's very hard to compete with Google Forms or all the Jot Forms. I mean, there's tons of forms companies out there, and so I think to some extent, if you're looking for a very kind of simple form, but you want maybe the file or the data or somehow to get posted and updated into JobTread, again, there's ways that can be done through an integration, whether through our workflows or through Zapier. But it is something that we've been looking at, contemplating. Don't necessarily have it on the roadmap right now, but certainly not opposed to it, but have to look a lot more into it.
All right. Well, that's all the questions that we have right now.
Awesome. Well, again, I appreciate everyone spending time with us today, and if you got thoughts, ideas, need some help, please do reach out. Your customer success managers, the support team, the JobTread Pros community, all of our marketplace partners. There are a ton of resources available to you. Take the time, whenever you can kind of really sort of think through, whatever it may be. If you got, feature request ideas, like the more detail you can provide to us, or if you need help with something in particular, creating like Loom videos, showing us exactly what you're doing, talking that through, that will help us respond so much quicker, than if you just kind of send an email and says, "Hey, I need help with a workflow." Well, that might take us a little bit longer to be able to actually help you. So, the more detail that you can provide is going to be really, really helpful. Appreciate everything that our team has done to continue to support all of our clients. So, let's see. I see a couple more. Is this for this integration? Will I be able to update the job value with this high level integration? Yeah, absolutely. I assume you're talking about back in high level, like the opportunity value or opportunity amount. Yeah, so if you send a proposal, if that proposal gets approved, you can post back into high level and save that. Revenue is one I can't get over. Sales value. So yeah, I mean, again, like that's Stephen. It's called closing the loop, right? Like you want to be able to inform your marketing campaigns and your marketing, automations. What is driving the most value? What is working? So every time you send out a proposal, you could post that value back into high level. That's how you're going to close the loop there. Um, Yeah. So, all right, cool. Well, look, again, appreciate everyone's time. I know we ran a little bit over, but if there's anything else that we can do, we're here for you. We look forward to working with you. Can't wait to see what you're able to do with these workflows, these automations. Please do share, with the JobTread Pros community. It's gonna be awesome to see what everyone can put together, and I can't wait for JobTread Connect for the automation lab. We will, I'm sure, no doubt, there will be some awesome implementations here that people will be willing to share, and that'll be really cool to walk away from automating your business even more after this JobTread Connect. So thank you all for attending.